Hi everybody, it is Julie. Welcome back to Pages and Pens. Today I am here to read 1-star reviews of some of my 5-star books from the year. Let's jump into this. Gone to Goodreads, I pulled up some books that I really loved and 5-starred this year that will probably make it onto my favorites of the year list. This is not the full list, I just pulled up a couple of books. And I am going to look at the 1-star reviews. So Goodreads is open, each book has been opened, I've gone to the ratings, I've clicked on the 1-star reviews, but I have not read any of them. So you're going to get my first reactions as we look at the 1-star reviews of my favorite books. Despite this bomb-ass makeup look, I'm going to throw on glasses because I'm going to be reading and I don't want to be squinting the entire video. It's not a good look for me. Books they're subjective. People love books, people hate books. There's plenty of things that I hated that people loved, and I get that. So it's no shade to anybody. You're free to feel how you feel about a book. I read this year Far From the Tree by Robin Benway, and I really loved it. I 5-starred it. I cried. It was emotional. It was hard-hitting. It was found family. It was actual family. It was beautiful in all of its diversity and amazingness. I gave this one 5 stars. I opened up Goodreads and I'm like, let me see how this one's faring. It has a 4.3 average rating. 4.3 on 22,769 reviews. Awesome. I'm sorry, ratings. 4,311 reviews. So if I filter this by rating, 0% 1-star reviews. It says that there's 83. Here we go with the 1-star reviews of Far From the Tree by Robin Benway. I had no business reading this book. I didn't realize this was YA until I started reading it because I never stopped reading books. I had to finish it. All right, well then that doesn't count. The writing was insufferable. I couldn't care less about the characters. It reminds me of a cheesy, stupid high school drama series. Everything is predictable. The only thing that wasn't predictable was the ending. The way they behave is infuriating. These moody, confused, self-discovering group of teenagers that each have a good amount of relatable baggage annoyed the hell out of me. Here's the thing. They're teenagers with a lot of baggage. It's a YA book. And I don't know that I would have called everything predictable, but I mean, that's fine. That's on you. This one gets 1 single star for me because I hated all the characters. I hated all the inconsistencies. I found it unbelievable and too predictable. I can't believe I fell for another book with 2 high reviews. I so much wanted to love this book. The premise was interesting as I am an adoptee and I thought I would relate. The fact that it won a prestigious award shocks me. It is poorly written, the characters never seeming truly real or fleshed out. The story is too predictable, the characters stereotypical, and I almost set it down after reading the paragraph that literally had the word "had" in it 8 or 9 times. Not for me. Why the hell don't I ever remember to check and see if a book is YA? I don't know. I kept reading it with this award in mind, thought it would reveal its merits. It did not. That shits was ass can. I'm adopted and feel offended. Too dry. The story could have been told in a better, more powerful and touching way, but it wasn't. Characters were too stereotypical, like cartoons, not real people. And then there's a lot of just like 1-star ratings that have no review at all. In terms of finding them stereotypical, in terms of finding them unrelatable or annoying, they're teenagers who are definitely having struggles. You follow siblings that are from very different backgrounds with very different situations. They might have been indicative of a stereotypical situation for each one of those life situations. I thought that the way that they merged was done really well, and it definitely drew a lot of emotion for me. So I don't agree with that, but that's fine. That's okay. I'm gonna bring you in a little closer because I feel like I can. All right, let's go on to another book. I don't want to. So we're gonna do With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo, which I loved. I 5-starred. I love the audiobooks because Elizabeth narrates them herself, which I think is beautifully done. So I did 5-star this. Looking back on it, I don't think it was like pure perfection, but I don't think it was a 1-star book. So we'll see what people say. I think is half me being in a reading slump and the other half is a mix of me not enjoying the writing, especially the random Spanglish that took me out of the book, and I'm a person from Latin America. So maybe that's why it's so weird, because I can't imagine switching languages unless it's a word that doesn't have a translation, and I didn't really care about the character. There is a lot of Spanish used in the book, but it didn't bother me as a non-Spanish speaking person. I finished listening to this on audiobook because there was only 3 hours left and I was able to listen to it on 2.5 speed, still sticking with everyone else I said. I can't get past the bad writing, and the story wasn't that interesting or engaging anyways. I'm a little more than 100 pages in, and I have a lot of problems with this book already. The first one being that the main character, who is in a culinary class learning food from Spain, I'm from Spain, learns from her teacher that paella is made with chorizo, and that is something really typical from Andalusia. When I read it, I was like, what? I felt really offended for different things. One, no one puts chorizo in paella in Spain. Nowhere you'll find a paella with chorizo. If you do, it's not paella, that's rice with chorizo. I can feel the author did not do good research for this book, and that's something really important. So they have issue with the way that Spain was represented in terms of culinary aspects, which I can't speak to. I would not have known any kind of issues with that while reading it, but I can understand if that's your culture and you don't think it's being represented well. At first, I really did enjoy this book. It was light enough and all the characters were really interesting. Sadly, it was so ridiculously boring that I had to give up on it. The only real conflict was Amani not knowing quite what she was going to do in college, and that was not really enough to hold me. Unpopular opinion, I was really excited about this book. The cover is beautiful, but it was just a major letdown with no climax at all, and I just thought it was boring. I was struggling to get through it. I get that this book has important stuff for teens in it. I liked that it was about a teen mom. I even liked the cooking bits. However, it's 100 pages in and there's nothing happening. I also thought I was going to get some magical realism, and yeah, no. There's additionally barely any conflict. Okay, so valid. This is a slice of life book. It is not some giant revelation. It's not something that has a ton of action. It's really about a community. It's about a family. It's about a girl and the way that she survives in a world where being a teen mom is not fantastic. Dating is difficult. Dealing with the ex is difficult. There's a lot of different issues that she has to overcome, and she's feeling kind of lost. I don't know why magical realism was assumed, but there is none, and I could see that you don't think that there's enough kind of going to keep you motivated to read, but it was more of a coming of age slice of life dealing with what you have in front of you when you have limited means. So, okay, I'll give that to you, I suppose. I could keep reading forever. There's a lot to go on, but I'm not going to. Then we're going to go to one that I read pretty recently, and that is 10 Blind Dates by Ashley Elston, which I really enjoyed. It was super, super cute. I liked the romance. I liked the friend group. I liked the family. I thought it was adorable, heartwarming, and fun. It was fluffy. Like, there's nothing serious in this one. It's just fluffy, funny. It's a feel-good book, and I really enjoy that about it. Sometimes you need those. It was extremely boring and not much of a rom-com. The main character didn't have much actual character to her. When she wasn't being boring, she was just more whining about all the dates she was being put on just for it to all end in an extremely predictable way as far as I can tell. I will say the end game, the end ship for this is 100% predictable. It's meant to be. It's not meant to be some grand reveal, I don't think. At no point while reading this did I not know who she was going to end up with, and I don't think that it was ever meant to be hidden from the reader. It's just meant to be like a fun exploration of family and maybe some dating, but I think it's more about family and reconnecting friendships than it is anything else. If the issue is the end ship, I don't see why that's an issue, because I don't think it was ever meant to be hidden from the reader. Anyway, the main love interest has a girlfriend, and there is some cheating, which isn't even acknowledged. Ugh, ew. Valid. I get it. An emotional connection and a history between two people, one who is in a relationship. Nothing then happens between those characters until things change, until situations change. And I think it's also very, very clear throughout the entirety of the book that there is an issue with the relationship that the one character is in. So it didn't bother me. They're teenagers, and it's very realistic for teenagers to behave the way that these kids did. It doesn't bother me at all. The other one is just DNF at 70%, and those are the only 1-star reviews that actually have any wording. Everything else is just the 1-star rating, so that's not very exciting, but we have that. Then we've got Girl Made of Stars by Ashley Herring Blake, which I really loved. I 5-starred. It was hard to read. It was difficult. It was a very hard situation these characters were put in. I really loved it. None of the characters elicited any connection from me. Mara irritated me most of the way through. Charlie was kind of a shitty friend, but we're expected to like her, which no. Not to mention, Charlie and Mara's relationship didn't seem all that healthy. What the hell did I just read? I thought it would deal with the actual premise presented in the synopsis. Girl has to deal with one of her best friends accusing her twin brother of rape. Instead, we got a story that didn't know whether it wanted to deal with rape, LGBTQ issues, feminism, dress code, gender fluidity, or general YA emo-ness. Well, those things aren't mutually exclusive. I think you can cover all of those things, and I think that when you're dealing with rape and the way that a town and a community responds to rape or families respond to rape, there is natural crossover to the way that other people are oppressed when they come out with information about themselves or about their journey and their struggle and the things that happen to them. Why can't all of those things be addressed? There was just too much that went on and nothing to do with the assault. Where the hell was the justice for her? I wanted more, and I wanted less of Mara and her problems with her ex. Too much that went on and nothing to do with the assault. This book doesn't follow the girl that got assaulted. This book does not follow the character that assaulted her. This follows the sister. It's in the synopsis. It's a story of a sister who has to deal with things. So I don't know where from the synopsis you assumed it was going to be about the assault when the party that's our main character and narrating the story wasn't involved in the assault. So there's that. This topic is very personal to me, and I'm frustrated with representation that feels more damaging than protective. This book has handled sexual assault in a way that I feel is dangerous and leaves the issue unsettled. It's not an appropriate tactic to execute shock factor or to graze over or to not be very explicit with your message. I do not mean this as a personal attack on any of these books, as I see lots of value and beauty in all of them, but the culture that surrounds sexual assault is one of rampant violence and complacency and ignorance. My interpretation of this book left me bitter. There was not a complete and well-rounded condemnation for the actions of Owen. There was room for a redemption arc. There was space in which we could only assume that she would rebuild a relationship. And as a survivor, I want to be clear that I do not speak for all survivors, as we all experience trauma, healing, and justice very differently. It felt very unrealistic and very offensive. Knowing what sexual abuse feels like should bring understanding to the severity of what her brother did. There is no gray area, which I felt the author's intention in writing the story was to include gray area. So I will say, there is, when you're dealing with a sibling, somebody that you love, especially a twin, when you're dealing with somebody you love doing something horrible, there is a period where you need to reconcile who you know, who you think you know, who you think you knew, with this new information that's being given to you. There is time where you need to grieve for the relationship you used to have while looking at what your relationship will be in the future. And as a sibling, as a twin, as somebody who has to reside in a house with a minor sibling, after something like this happens, there's going to be gray area. There's going to be times where she doesn't know how to coincide these two different parts of him, where she sees these snippets of who she used to think he was versus who she now knows him to be. And that's not a cut and dry situation for a sibling. She's not the one that he assaulted. So the trauma's not hers, and she needs to reconcile this kind of aspect and this shift in viewing somebody she loves. I see what you're saying, but I don't think that was ever the intention or purpose of this book. I don't think this book is for survivors of sexual assault and rape. I think this is meant to be more of a study of the family, especially siblings of people that are accused of that. That's just my take on it. We're going to move on to Rules for Banishing by Kate Alice Marshall. This one is one that I really, really loved. You've got a contemporary world, you have a magical wood. On that magical wood, at a certain time of the year, during the right circumstances, is a road to ghosts and scary ass shit. But it's also a murder mystery, a missing sibling story, so it kind of mirrors that book that everybody freaking loves. What the hell is the name? I loved it. What the hell is the name of the book? It's red and white. And it's a girl looking for her sister, or her sister's killer. Anyway, it's that premise meets like a portal fantasy. What the hell ever. You guys get it. I'm literally brain farting on everything, and it's angering me. So we're gonna get into reviews for this. I 5-starred it. I thought it was phenomenal. It was creepy. It was magical. The writing was gorgeous. Like, can you see the tabs in this? Like, some of them are yellow, so they don't show up as well. But I tabbed so much of this. I annotated it. Amazing. And I've made a couple people read it, and they all agree that it is fantastic. It's interesting, but too much. There's tons of characters to track. Then more crap up along the way. I also couldn't easily follow the plot on this one. It's valid. We follow a whole group of friends that are taking this road to help their one friend find their sister. Everybody for their own reasons, but everybody's on this road, and they do have to go in like pairs. There's rules to the road, and then you meet more people along the road. So there are a lot of characters to keep in your mind, and then you do follow like a police investigation afterwards, as well as them going on the journey, and it flip-flops between the two. So I could see how it could be confusing if that's not a premise or a format you're used to. Somebody DNF'd it at 200 pages because it was boring. Oh, I don't get that. They were expecting horror, an isolated road with twists and turns, and above all, a survival story of a diverse group of friends. It is all those things. What I got was a jumble of magical realism, fantasy elements, and a plot that made zero sense. So for me, I got survival, a diverse group of friends. We do have diversity in terms of, I believe, sexual orientation, also impairments. We have somebody who is hearing impaired. I don't know. In general, in race, in all ways, it was very diverse. I freaking loved it. Somebody else was just so fucking confused. One person mentions it. It says, and the ending. What the fuck was that ending? I get it. There's a very open ending. Sadie. It's like a mix of Wayward children's series and Sadie, like kind of a crossbreed between those two. But much like Sadie or something else, there's a very open ending at the end of this novel. So there's room for interpretation. There's room for you to kind of infer on your own. And given the creepiness of the book, I think that lent itself very well. But I could see how that would annoy some people. So if that was your main like gripe about the book, I get it. I 100% get that. But only one person has mentioned that. I don't know if everybody else just didn't make it to the end. Who knows? Then we're going to start with one of the books that I fell in love with earlier in the year. One of the authors that I fell in love with earlier in the year. I 5-starred one of her books. It was the very first book of 2019 that I ever read. And then as soon as I was able to get my hands on an arc of it, I went right on to The Weight of the Stars by Kay Ancrum. So I read The Wicker King. It was my very first book that I read in January. I think I literally started it January 1st. And I 5-starred it. Then I was able to get an arc of The Weight of the Stars, and I love this book. Alex and Ryan have such a special place in my heart. Their families have such a special place in my heart. Their family is their friend group. I can't imagine really, truly anybody giving this 1 star. I don't know what about it wouldn't work for them. It is a contemporary. It's billed as a contemporary. Kay Ancrum describes it as a contemporary, but it does have a little bit of a sci-fi element in that some of the science aspects of space travel don't exist in our world yet. However, the rest of this is a contemporary. Kay Ancrum writes very edgy stuff. She writes kids that have a lot of problems, either in home or in life. She writes about the rougher friend groups. She writes about people that are broken, that help put each other back together. And she does it beautifully. And if that's not your thing, then I can imagine her books wouldn't be your thing. But I truly don't understand how anybody would 1-star it. So we're going to see. I don't know. Oh no. Okay. This was disjointed, stilted, and unrealistic and selfish. Some people say it has no plot. I don't think that's entirely true. And I think it's a type of story meant to rely on characters and their development that could be really good if it was done well. And I'm sorry, but that wasn't done well. Even the diversity and the discrimination against those identities is done in a way that is stilted and simplistic. So yeah, I was really disappointed. I have this book shelved as science fiction, but it's really just contemporary teen fiction with some stuff about astronauts thrown in. It's so far below the standards of what makes good sci-fi. It's because it's not a sci-fi book. But even when judging it on its own merits, there are very few to be found. This book's description and design make it seem like it is set far in the future, but it is, as I said, contemporary, which makes the space elements nonsensical. It's not meant to be a sci-fi. Ryan is a stupid, nasty asshole, and her friends are stupid, nasty assholes. When the new girl, Alexandria, doesn't want to be friends with them, they decide that harassing her and annoying her is the best way to handle the situation. Prior to this, Alexandria has done nothing to them other than simply being rude by refusing to speak to them. This is how Ryan and her friends justify their behavior. This is so stupid. I don't even have words for how stupid this is. The only person who endures any long-term consequences as a result of Ryan's friends' behaviors is Alexandria herself, and they were pretty much the only consequences anybody in the book ever suffers for their actions. Despite being a nasty, stupid asshole, Ryan has the redeeming quality of beating up creepy guys to protect her friends. She becomes less irritating by the end of the book, but the romance was already ruined for me because I never really got what her love interest saw in her. This was by no means the end of the issues that I had with this book, but the other problems with it: poor writing, rush pacing, terrible dialogue, pale in comparison to the glaring logistical flaws. The most unbearable kind of smug and smarmy Tumblr post, but a whole book worth. Oh no! Kay Ancrum has the honor of being the first author I've given 1 star to multiple of their books. This one wasn't as bad as The Wicker King, which is one of, if not my least favorite book of all time, but it's still bad. And I've read like a lot of bad fanfic. The characters were shells of real human beings. I hate both Ryan and Alex. The plot made no sense. Kay Ancrum did zero world building, and what the fuck even was that ending? Also, don't get me started on the scene where the character is sexually assaulted and has no effect on the plot or the characters, not even on the character who was assaulted. There was one part of this book that was told through voice memos, and I wish that that story was given more, because it would have been 1,000 times better than the confusing mess of vaguely female-female fiction we were given. So I will say, there is a sexual assault in this book. I do believe that it did have impact, and it does show how characters relate to one another, and specifically how Ryan responds to that assault. There's a lot of merit around the situation. It's not then brought up over and over again, but it is a situation that does change the dynamic of the female friendships, as well as love interest relationships, as well as like protectiveness. So I beg to differ. I do think that it serves its purpose. Reads like it was written by an actual teenager in a bad way. And then the rest are like 1 stars with no ratings, or no like actual written reviews. Your opinions are very valid. One of those was incredibly long. Like I scrolled and scrolled and scrolled, and they had a whole bunch of reasons why things didn't work for them. And I will admit, the way that Ryan goes about getting Alexandria to become a part of her friend group is backwards and messed up. And I will say this with like a caveat of understanding that the way that Ryan relates to the world and relates to people, and the way that her friend groups are, and the way that they relate to one another, are very twisted and very dark, and they're not your normal way of like bonding with people. And I've allowed that to be something that I understand about Kay Ancrum's writing and her characters, and I'm okay with it, but I get it. And then the last 2 books are going to be companions. So we've got Beartown, and we have Us Against You by Frederick Bachman. These are by far some of my favorite reads of the year. They were squished in here into the end of December, and I will fight you on this being a 1-star read if you read the whole thing. If you DNF it because the beginning is too slow, then fine, I get it. But if you actually read the entirety of these books and you still don't like them, you have no heart. And I say that in the nicest way possible if you're a viewer who hates these books, but like, who are you? This book centers around a town and the people in the town, and yes, the people in this town are obsessed with hockey. This book, for the beginning part, you have to get past meeting all these characters, getting to know the way the town works, getting to know the way that people think, the way their socioeconomic status works, the way the town circles around one another. And once you're invested, once you understand all of that, it is impossible not to love these characters. And Us Against You takes place 3 weeks directly after Beartown ends. So it does follow all of the same characters, and it just continues their story. And I defy anybody to really get invested, really let themselves sink into this town and these people and not love them. Because I cried so much reading this. You guys saw the reading vlog. I cried so much. I cried even more at this one because it follows all of the same characters, but I love them so much now. So they're so heart heavy, but so beautiful. They're heartbreaking, but hopeful. They are so real and so raw. And yes, it centers around hockey, but it centers around human nature and just humankind and the way that we treat each other. And It's beautiful. It is so masterfully written. The smallest things, the writing style, the repetition in here works. You guys know one of my biggest like pet peeves in writing is repetition, but repetition in this is used in a way that works. It's meant to be impactful. He only uses like one phrase or two phrases repeatedly, and it's very impactful. It works, and it is so, like, from a writing standpoint, beautiful. From a reader standpoint, so emotionally impactful. I love them, and I will come for you. I will come for you if you actually read all of these and just did not DNF like partway through this because you couldn't get into the town. Once you care for these characters, once you start reading, if you don't care for these characters at a certain point and you don't like feel for them, like who are you? Who are you? Who hurt you? I can't, I'm gonna get so mad. These are the ones that are gonna break me. So we're gonna start with Beartown because it's the first book. This is an average rating of 4.47. Oh shit, I didn't tell you that of any of them. It's currently at 4.26 with 21,296 reviews and 172,960 ratings. It's fucking phenomenal. I have one question to ask anyone who has rated this highly. Did you actually read the same book as me? Honestly, what piece of overblown, overwrought drama? Okay, I can see why people might like this, how this is a small town community, closes ranks around this scandal, but I've read better books about communities. Books that find the harmony of prose from the many voices within the town. This was clunky. It was a book that had one or two moving quotes, but most of the ideas behind the prose felt stale to me. Without wishing to spoil the plot, I have read much better books about the events behind the scandal, about justice and vengeance. To use a favorite sports term, this was a book that was better in two halves. The first half made me want to stab myself in the eyeball from the tedium, and the second half, while it certainly picked up the pace, still petered out into a sort of maudlin analysis of the human condition. And that ending, I freaking roll. Nope, nope, nope again. 1 star for the first half, maybe 3 for the second half, seeing as it's the season of Christmas and I'm feeling charitable, but I'm not, because days later I'm still annoyed about how ridiculous this book was. I think I need to cut ties at this point, appreciate that one beautiful story I read by this author and not Sully? I mean, it should be Sully, it's Sullen. My own memory of him further. Sorry I failed you all yet again. The news is I killed 2 birds with 1 stone, or hockey puck, as the case may be here. I read a book that I actually received as an ARC, but never opened because I was terrified of being the wrong reader. Nailed it. I don't care about these characters. I don't care about their dramas. I don't care about hockey. I don't care about who wins. I don't care who gets cut from the team. I don't care about the underlying themes or struggles or personal issues or faulty marriages or teenage culture. Okay. I thought this book would never end. I loved A Man Called Ove, and how disappointing this one was. There are too many characters, too many expositions on how you feel. The amount of time it takes to get to the central action made me almost want to stop reading 5 times. Yes, Bachman can write beautifully, but it's almost like watching a bad indie movie trying to be deep. There was just too much of it, way too much. A man is sitting, a girl is laughing, a child is crying. We get it. If 100 pages at least had been shaved off and less of the aforementioned prose, this could have been a decent book, but frankly I couldn't bear, see what I did there, for it to be over. My head actually hurt from rolling my eyes so much. Only redeeming quality was how great his writing is. This book has gotten a lot of 5-star ratings, which is why I read it. I figured if that many people liked it, obviously I should read it. Unfortunately, I was not one of those people who decided to give this book such a rating. The overall story was well written and the subject matter was very important. I felt for the characters. What, you may ask, was missing if all of those things worked? Nothing was missing per se. I did not like the style in which the story was written or the execution of the story. It jumps from character to character often, and while I don't mind multiple POVs, it felt like this did a disservice to the book. Whenever I would be about to form some sort of attachment to a character, he'd jump to another person. I also felt like I didn't really know the characters. Yes, I know certain things about them, but I didn't really know them. I wanted to know more about the characters, such as their thoughts and feelings. If he did talk about their feelings, I felt like it was being told instead of being shown. I felt like the narrator was telling me the story. I was not actively participating in the story. I don't understand, though, if you're that connected to the characters and the writing is that good and you had an issue with maybe the delivery, how it gets a 1 star. I do agree he does a lot of character jumping, but I also think that that leads to a feeling of almost like anxiety that I enjoy sometimes in books, where you want to keep reading because the things that are happening to one character affect another character. The things that are happening within the town affect every person in the town. So yes, you're getting to a point where there's a crux of an issue with one character and then you switch POVs, because that situation's not only happening to one character, it's also happening to this character, and how it affects both of them is important. So I do think that the way that he jumps and when he jumps, A, creates the need to keep turning pages, B, creates a sense of unity in that everybody is dealing with this one issue, so it doesn't have to only be from that one POV. It's beautiful, and I'm sorry, but no. The writing is unrefined, simplistic, and melodramatically monotone. Alright, let's see Us Against You, which I will avoid spoilers, but I want to see what people think if they've read Beartown and liked it, and they continued, why they didn't like Us Against You. It was an okay follow-up to Beartown, even though it was a little confusing, since the end of Beartown looks into the future, kind of gave a resolution to some of the characters and their plight. But hey, it was one of my favorite books of last year, so I'm happy to overlook that and continue, since the author clearly felt that there was more to be said. What a disappointment. I honestly have no clue what the point of this was. By page 267, I could not discern where we were going, nor did I care. It was mostly told in third-person perspective, and it repeated itself so much that it got annoying. I don't like giving poor reviews. I admire anyone who can write a book and has the confidence to publish it. However, I will now attempt to explain why this book left me so irritated and disappointed. I enjoyed Beartown, which sets up the scene for Us Against Them. Well, it's Us Against You. My battery keeps overheating and I'm starting to stress out, so we're just going to wrap this up after Us Against You, which has an average rating of 4.34 on 8,162 reviews. Just for reference, because I forgot to mention it, 10 Blind Dates has a 4.07 on 896 reviews. The Way to the Stars has a 4.05 on 285 reviews, and Rules for Vanishing has a 3.88 on 444 reviews. So there's some information on those books. If I forgot one, I'm sorry, I can't help it. Let's look at more for Us Against You really quickly. I read all of Beartown. It was tough to get through, but I did it, so I thought that maybe this one would lighten up a bit, and I gave it a try, but nope, all negative on every page, so I quit after a few chapters. It's not a pleasant book, guys. It's about a hard town. It's about hard situations. Like, it is heartbreaking, but it's also beautiful if you allow it to be. In Us Against You, Bachman attempts to tackle a lot of hot-button issues on which he is not an expert. Thus, his character's plot and descriptions fail to capture the actual experiences of individuals who belong to this culture, and in conclusion, comes off as crass and unfeeling. These subjects are extremely relevant and sensitive, and they need to be handled with the greatest amount of care possible. After slogging my way through this, I've come to the conclusion that whatever most people see in Bachman's writing, it escapes my notice. Very disappointing to not like this. While I appreciate glimpses of Bachman's signature crazy great insight into the condition of being a human, this was not a tight, well-crafted novel. It felt a bit forced. Characters weren't sympathetic, including the favorites from the previous book, and I just didn't recognize the happenings as true. So cheesy I couldn't stand it. Stop a third of the way through. Another hard-to-review book by Bachman. I liked the first book of this series, and through a decent section of this book, I felt I was going to like it better than book 1, perhaps a 4-star, but then the writing style started to annoy me and eventually got distracting and took away a bit from the enjoyment of the book. First, he gives a reveal to a major event, then jumps backwards to explain how we got there. But since nearly everything is revealed early and then backfilled, the story constantly is a series of leaps forward and jumps back and walking forward to the plot. It was too heavy, weighty, or depressing. With the ways that things in the world are right now, it seemed I couldn't handle more depressing hopelessness. Every man in the book was either a rapist, a woman beater, a politically corrupt swindler, cheating, or completely self-focused. It's completely untrue. The only decent people in the book were women and homosexuals. Holy shit, lady. It's a woman writing this, and no. Continually tells you that men will rape you, that you aren't safe from them, that they will hurt you, that they beat their children, that they're violent, that they go around packs and harm people, good people, mostly women of course, and that boys can't shake loose of becoming crappy men like their fathers. In no way, shape, or form is that the message that this book sends. Oh, wow. Okay. Nope. I don't know, guys. That's not my takeaway. Luckily, it's not the takeaway of my friends that I've had read this book, and I hope It's not the takeaway that you took from it, because wow, it was so impactful for me. But those are the 1-star reviews on my 5-star books. I will be doing a 5-star review of 1-star books later, but I don't think it's going to come in my 12 days of giveaways. But let's go to giveaway, Julie. I have a bonus day of giveaway because I have another book and a little bit of swag that I think one of you might actually really love. So there will be a bonus giveaway today. If you are interested in We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Faizal and this amazing Owl Crate exclusive edition, as well as the fact that it is a signed book, we have this beautiful tip-in page. I also have the letter from the author, and I have artwork. If you're interested in snagging the book that is signed and exclusive, as well as exclusive artwork for the characters, the author letter, you can get that in today's giveaway. I also have for you, although sadly not with the paper that it used to come with, the Owl Crate exclusive pin. This one says We Hunt the Flame, the light in the darkness. It is a gorgeous enamel pin, actually made by Hafsa herself. She does have like a pin company. She used to be a bookstagrammer and like pin maker, and then she started writing books. It's badass. So here is her pin. And then I have a travel passport / document case. This says I'm going on an adventure, which is of course a Lord of the Rings quote. Has a front pocket, a zipped up area for passports, money, all of your great essentials. So if you want to hunt the flames of your own and go on your own little vacation, we have that. We have the pin, we have the book. They are all a bonus giveaway. They are US only. If you're a US resident, please do a couple of things. One, make sure you're subscribed to my channel and that your subscriptions are public so that I can check and make sure you're actually subscribed. And then leave me a comment down below letting me know that you would like to be entered, as well as a way to get in touch with you, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, email, some way that I can contact you if you win this giveaway, and then I will send this out to you. Also, please be 18 years or older or have your parents' permission to give me your address, because I will need that. And that's going to be it for this one. Let's go back to past Julie. Present Julie, future Julie. Let's go back to the other Julie. And now the giveaway Julie is done with you, we're going to wrap up this video. If you liked it, please be sure to give me a big thumbs up. Check out the social media links and the giveaway details down below. And I will see all of you in my next video. Bye, guys.